The last 6 or 7 months have been great. It's been great getting a feel for the city, for the university, for our fans, for our team. But now I'm extremely anxious to get this thing started, actually play some baseball games, get on the field for a full spring practice. It's what we've all been working very hard for. So we're anxious to get started. I know I'm speaking for the coaching staff, for our players. We're anxious to get back on the field and start showing what we're all about. So with that, I'll be happy to answer questions.
Mark, I know it's been kind of a off-season long question about the pitching staff. It's just that there's so much unknown there. Do you have a pretty good idea of who you want to be in that group of starters and who in the bullpen, maybe as the closer as well?
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's a work in progress. I think everybody knows that Adam Hill, assuming he's healthy, will be our Friday night guy. After that, there's a lot of guys that are being evaluated over the next three weeks. You're looking at Morris. You're looking at the 2 freshmen, Majinski and Logan Chapman. Eddie Demurius could be considered. Ridge Chapman could be considered. Gage Hinson, JUCO transfer, could be considered. So that's the main group of guys that will be looked at as starters at this point. Now it's up to them to win a job. No. We were very conservative with him this fall after having pitched a lot last spring and summer. He's 100% ready to go.
Mark, you mentioned getting a feel for the community and the program. What did you gather from what kind of feel did you get when you talked to people about what this baseball program means and is to folks around here?
Well, it's clear there's a passion for baseball here, and that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to come here, why I want this to be my last stop in college baseball. They have the same passion for the game that I do, that my staff does. I've dedicated my whole life to this sport, and it's great to be in a community where they have the same passion. We want to win at a very high level, and when you do that here, the support you have is unbelievable. We show recruits the parades here when you win. We show them what colonial life looks like when you have a national championship celebration. So, to me, it's been great. I've tried to meet as many of them as possible. As I mentioned, I've done a lot of speaking engagements, been out in the community, trying to meet as many fans as possible. And they have high expectations. That's okay. We do too. When I'm up at 3 in the morning trying to figure something out, it's because we want to win badly, and that's how they are. So I've got no issues with that. Our fans will know that we're prepared, and I think the more they get to know us and hear us speak and talk about our vision, they understand that we're going to do everything we possibly can within the rules to make sure that we're the best team in the country.
Mark, I know you probably don't care too much about preseason polls and stuff, but from around here, relatively low expectations, it looks like apparently. Is that something you can use as motivation, and do you welcome that almost?
Yeah. Yeah, most coaches will say, no, we don't look at that. But behind the scenes, absolutely. You can needle your guys a little bit every now and then, say, hey, they don't think much of us right now. Nationally, we're not in the D1 poll. We're not in the Baseball America poll. And those are writers that we respect very much, and their opinions at this point probably are valid based on the pitching we have coming back that they're aware of, and how we performed last year. So can we use that as a motivator? Absolutely we can. So to me, I think it's a good place. It's a good place to start. They think we can be a good team, but they're not quite sure that we're elite yet. Our job as coaches and players is to get elite as quickly as we can.
Coach, I know you talked about it a little bit in your opening statement, but just how anxious are you? We talk to the players all the time. They want to get out in that field. I know for you, you're anxious to finally make your first impression. Just describe kind of what you're feeling as we're a few weeks out from opening day.
I'm just anxious, and anxious is maybe not the right word. I'm just excited. I want to see these guys get to show our fans how much better they've gotten. I want the fans to see the hard work that's been put in, and that they are better players, that we are equipped to win games. I'm just excited to watch our guys get out there. They've worked extremely hard. They've taken everything we've asked them to do and run with it. So I'm anxious for our guys to get on the field and see that they're better players. I think they're starting to get a feel for, I'm a better player than I was in the past. And I'm anxious for them to get that feeling and get the rewards of all that hard work. But I'm also anxious for our fans to see that so our fans can get excited.
Mark, you lose Tyler Johnson as your closer from last year. Who do you kind of expect to slide into that position, or are you going to try out a few different guys over there?
Yeah, much like our starters, that's to be determined. when you don't return guys in roles, then you have to put them in those situations and see who handles it best. Eddie Demurius is obviously one of the guys we'll look at there. Rich Chapman is a guy we'll look at there. Sawyer Bridges thus far has looked really good, and he may have the stuff and the makeup to be a guy that can be looked at. We'll have options. It's just a matter of who is the best option, and that's what the next 3 weeks is for, is to try to figure that out. And even through inter squads and scrimmages, sometimes you get a feel for who you think that's going to be. But then when the lights turn on, you get a different look too. So this will be a work in progress. By no means will we have an Omaha team, figured out on day one of scrimmages or even of opening day. Our job is to continue to evaluate where guys are, and at the end of the day, figure out where all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. We can go into it with an idea, but then we have to evaluate as we go.
Mark, once you took over, was there one thing you had to do above anything to make to imprint yourself on this program, and what would that have been?
I don't think we went out of our way to do anything other than just show our team what we expect, what we're all about, and how we're going to go about our business. We're going to be a disciplined operation. We're going to have high expectations. We're going to hold them accountable, and we're going to set the standard that we're trying to be the best. It's that simple. And so I think our guys figured that out, that we talk about that, but we also live it. As coaches, I don't ask anything of our players that we're not going to do ourselves, and that's to be obsessed with the process, try to be the best you can. And I think our players have appreciated the fact that we as coaches are trying to do something every day to try to help them get better, and they in turn, for the most part, have tried to do the same.
I know when evaluating your roster, over here, Coach, when evaluating your roster, you had a pretty good idea of what you had coming in and what you had recruited. Who in particular has opened your eyes since you've been here and given you something you didn't expect?
That's a good question. I just think there's no one person that jumps out. I look at a lot of our guys. I look at our offense as a group, as a group they will take a big step. So I don't think it's just one or two guys. I think a lot of guys will be better. I expect Adam Hill to take that next step as a pitcher, to be a Friday night guy. It's harder to be a Friday night guy than a Saturday guy or a Sunday guy. So I expect him to take a big jump. But in terms of any one guy that has stepped up and been a lot different than I expected, no. I've just seen a good natural progression of improvement for our guys as a whole.
Mark, how do you see the middle infield situation shaking out, and do you still plan to pitch LT some?
LT will be looked at as a pitcher, maybe not out of the gate. He's dealing with a little bit of a stress reaction in his arm, so he won't pitch for a few weeks. But he is a guy that has the ability to help us on the mound based on what we saw this fall. The middle infield situation, it's the same guys that you're probably familiar with. It's Stokes and Tolbert are probably the two leading candidates at shortstop. Campbell, Tolbert, and Rowe are probably the top candidates at second base. And it's just a matter of, once again, how do the pieces fit? What our guys need to realize, and our fans need to realize, is sometimes the pieces of the puzzle dictate where you play guys. So you may see an LT Tolbert at first because Campbell has to play second. There's a lot of moving pieces here, and so what our job is to figure out what is the best collective team to put on the field. But those guys I mentioned are the top guys being looked at for the middle infield. Olsen, he's an outfielder first. He's a primary outfielder, but also with the ability to come into the infield if we need him. But at this point, he's primarily an outfielder.
Mark, in the offseason, where did this team specifically need to improve the most, and do you think you've done that in this time?
Well, every team that I've ever coached the offseason is to get bigger, faster, stronger, and smarter. So what we tried to do in the offseason is get them in the weight room with Billy Anderson and get bigger, faster, stronger. I think when our guys see some of the bodies that we have on our team right now, they'll see great improvement. Some guys that needed to get in much better shape are. Some guys that needed to get stronger got stronger. I think our speed guys are continuing to work on their speed. But you saw some guys that needed to get in significantly better shape have done that. So that's the big thing I'm pleased with. And then lastly is the off-season is to try to teach them the game and get them smarter about the game, how to win games, and we've been able to spend a lot of time in this room specifically to do that as well.
you've got about 9 scrimmages, I guess, before the start of the season. Is there a point in that time where you'd like to think these are the 9 guys I want to put in their opening day and get them in a lineup out there in a scrimmage to see how they perform, or does that matter too much when February 16th comes along?
I would love to have 9 guys that you just say that's our starting lineup every day, but we have more than that. I know that already. I know we have probably 11, 12, maybe even as many as 13 guys that can and should start on any given day for us. I don't think that'll change over the next 3 weeks. So what we need to figure out is do we need to platoon in some spots? Do we have a left-right matchup in different parts around the field? And how do the first basemen complement the middle infield? And who's going to DH? A lot of those things need to be figured out. But in terms of narrowing it down to 9 guys, we won't do that because we have more than 9 guys that can start. And a lot of times it will be based on who's giving the best effort, who's in a slump, who's hot. All those things will factor into it. Love to say we have 9 all-stars we're going to put out there, and there's no decisions, but we have more than 9 guys that will start for us, and I don't think that will change in the next 3 weeks.
Coach, how's Chris's knee, and where do you see him factoring in this season?
Chris, I think, is one of the guys that has gotten himself in much better shape than he was a year ago. And so far, knock on wood, his health has been very good. So it's up to us to continue to push him in a way that he's trained to perform at a very high level, but not so hard that he has to take a step back health-wise. But he looks as good now as he has since I've been here. He's throwing better, he's moving better, and knock on wood, his knee has not given him any issues so far this spring.
And how do you go about determining where you put each guy in the outfield? I know you've got 4 or 5 guys that you want to put out there, and all of them can play different spots.
Right. Well, yeah, as you mentioned, we have guys that can play multiple spots, and over the next 3 weeks, we'll play them. Cortez we'll see some action in left and right. Blair will primarily be a center fielder because I think he's that good defensively that if he's in the game, he'll be in center field. Hopkins will get work in left and center and maybe a little bit in right. Jacobson will get work in center and in left. And Olson, I think, is a pure right fielder, so he'll get the majority of his work out there. So once again, a lot of those decisions will be made on who else is in the lineup with them. Are we facing a lefty or a righty to arrive at the best 3 guys to put out there?
Mark, this is the first time to your left, far left. This is the first time this has been a very stable program in terms of the people in charge and around for a long time. So when you talk to people, do you get a sense that they're all in, or are they still waiting to see what the new guy's all about?
Well, I think they have the right. Yeah, I think they have the right to say, "Hey, let's wait and see." And I've told the story that many times when I meet people, they kind of have a let's try to figure this thing out. Let's figure out what this new guy's all about. What I've seen is that when people take the time to get to know me and my vision and what our staff believes in and how we're approaching things, they generally say, okay, I think we're going to give this guy a chance. And so to me, I think the vibe among our fan base right now is very good. So now it's up to us to win as many games as we possibly can. But I think every fan base across the country, when you have a new staff, you have the right to sit back and evaluate it as you go. What my hope is that over the last 6 or 7 months, we've shown our people what we're all about, and they can get on board with that. And I think that's what's happened.
TJ struggled with injuries last year, but he had a great fall. How did he come through winter? Is he still completely healthy, and is he still a guy that you're really excited to see?
Oh yeah. Health is a big thing. TJ and injuries happen everywhere across the country, whether it's pitchers having to have surgeries and pitchers, position players with the hamstrings or quads or whatever the case may be. All you can do as a staff and as a program is try to make sure you're doing everything possible to help prevent that. And so we've placed a high emphasis on nutrition. We've placed a high emphasis on pre-practice preparation in terms of the things we're going to do. We make our guys walk around with water bottles now wherever they go, just because hydration is so important, that we've learned through sports science studies. So we're going to do everything we can to keep these kids at the highest level of health and nutrition for their performance. So he's a guy that he's taken everything we've done, and so far he's been healthy, and obviously we hope that continues.
as working as a head coach at a Power 5 school, at an SEC school, what's been, I guess, your favorite new thing that you've come across, whether it's the ballpark, hitting facility, fan base, that's new to you about this program?
Well, clearly getting to meet with so many sports experts in a room such as this. No, I think everything. Everything. I love coming to this ballpark every day. I love meeting with our fans that can tell me stories from 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I love meeting our alumni that have built this program. I love watching pro players working out at Founders in the morning. I've loved every part of it. It's what it's supposed to be like. I got a taste of it at Miami and Tulane, where it was passion at the highest level, and you had the great alumni. To me, I feel at home here. I've loved every part of it.
Over here, Mark. You know how passionate college baseball fans are in this state. From what you've seen already, what do you think about the talent in high school baseball in the state? Is it a little more or less what you thought it might be right now in these, next few graduating classes?
No, I think it's probably about where it's always been. The coaches in this state, high school travel ball coaches, are all excellent and as good as anywhere you'll find in the country. The population in our state is lower than some places I've been or recruited in the past. Obviously, Florida, Texas. Just the pure population in those states is much greater. So you have more players in those states because of that. But in terms of the talent you can find in this state, I mean, you have great players in this state, so it's up to us to make sure that we get our share of them.
When you look at determining roles on the pitching staff, what are you looking for beyond the stuff that they bring?
Throw strikes. You cannot walk guys. You cannot walk guys. I don't want to do anything that helps our opponent to win games, and whether that's making errors, whether it's not getting it out when the team bunts, whether it's walking them, whether it's pass balls, whether it's airmailing, cutoff men, I don't want to do anything that helps the opponent to have a better chance to beat us. And to me, we have a lot of guys on our staff with stuff. Now we need to figure out which guys will throw the most strikes, the most quality strikes, and who will minimize free passes. To me, that's number one. Absolutely, absolutely. You can have a closer that has great stuff, and if he's not a competitor, if he doesn't love the ball in the ninth inning with 10,000 crazy fans, maybe he's not a closer type. Makeup matters, maturity matters, mound presence matters, and I think Coach Mead he places a big emphasis on that daily with our guys. So when a guy's out there on the mound, he needs to walk out there like he's expecting to dominate, and I know Coach Mead will take care of that.
What's Jonah Bride's role on this team, on the field and off the field?
Jonah Bride will be our third baseman. He'll hit in the middle of the order, and he is a calm but motivated presence for our players. He comes to the park every day to work extremely hard. He's extremely coachable. Some days you'd think he's a freshman because he's always trying to learn and ask questions, and to me that's a great characteristic. He's one of the rocks of our team. There's no question about it. He's going to have a great year offensively. I think he's probably the best defensive third baseman in our league, and I'm hoping that he can have a great year, help us get back to an elite level, and then pass him on to professional baseball. He's extremely important to our team.
Mark, you obviously had some really good teams at South Florida over the past few years. How does the overall talent level here compare to those teams?
Right now, it's very similar. A couple of the polls that came out actually have South Florida ranked ahead of South Carolina right now. They're very talented there, and they're going to have a great year as well. They have arguably the best college pitcher in the country throwing on Friday nights for them, and they have a majority of their team is going to be juniors position player-wise that were part of the number 5 recruiting class a couple years ago. So they're really good. But I also think we have a chance to be pretty darn good too. So I would say at this point, the talent levels are very similar and very level.
Josh Hyber, Spurs and Feathers. You've talked a lot about the multiple options that you have up the middle and in the outfield. With a player like Carlos Cortez, what do you expect from him this season, and how nice is it to have a guy like that who you could stick him out there most days in the outfield and put him in the middle of the lineup?
Yeah, he's one of the premier hitters in the country, and we're lucky to have him. He's worked extremely hard. He wants to take his game to the next level. He had a great second half of the season last year. My goal for him, obviously, is that from day one he hits at that kind of level, but even more so. He hit below 300 last year. My goal for him is he's a mid threes type hitter, 350, 360 type hitter. He hit 12 homers and didn't play every day. So I'd like to see his power numbers go up. I'd like to see his performance against left-handed pitchers get better. He still has a lot to work on, which to me is encouraging, because he's great now, but it means he can take it to an absolutely elite level. So he's a great guy to pencil into your lineup. You know, he'll probably hit third for us opening night, and he'll be one of the best three-hole hitters in the country.
Back right there. Mike? Hey, Mark, was the game against College of Charleston something that you wanted to do, and do you think that it could maybe bring any distractions to this team playing their role?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that was a game that basically was on the schedule, and they were trying to figure out scheduling, as you probably know, is sometimes done 2, 3, 4 years in advance. That was a game that was already in the works before I got here. The idea was brought up to play it at the Pro Park here locally, add a charity component to it, and you know, when it was all looked at by our people, we thought it made sense. Big thing I like to do is have our teams play in pro parks whenever possible. I want to play as many home games as we can because we have the best stadium in America. But also when we have a chance to play in pro parks, I think that's added value for our players, for our team, and in recruiting as well. When you can say you get to play most of your games here, but then you also get to go play at pro parks in Greenville or here locally or in Charlotte. To me, that's another selling point for recruiting. So you add the charity component to it. To me, it was a win-win across the board, and we'll evaluate it. If we think it's a great event, we'll look at doing it again. If we think it's not, then we'll always have the right to adjust.
Back here on your right, Will Muschamp talked about the reception he got from his new players while the coaching staffs were changing over. He said it was a really good reception. Players were really open to the new staff. How have you found your new players, and what are the biggest changes you think your staff has made from the previous?
I mean, I would echo what Will said. The guys here have been tremendous in taking what we believe in and adopting it. I haven't had an issue yet where I've told the guys, hey, we need to play hard, and we didn't play hard. I haven't had an issue yet where we worked on something with a hitter and he wanted to fight us on it. The reception's been tremendous. What I see with our guys is our guys just want to be really good. And if you give them information or preparation that helps them to move in that direction, they run with it. So they've accepted us 100%, and for that I'm very thankful. What we've done that compares to in the past, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't here. It's hard for me to know. I know what we believe in, and I know what we're trying to do right now.
Kind of going off of that, you've had Schuyler Meet here for a few months now. What's it kind of been like in his adjustment to South
It's
Carolina?
been great. It's been great. Our pitchers love him. Obviously, Coach Myers was such and is such an important part of this athletic department and of our baseball program and its history, and so it was really tough to lose him. But if we had to replace him, I think Schuyler Meet has been the absolute perfect fit. He brings so much to the table for us. He's young, he's energetic, he's a student of the game. He's on top of every modern technology to help our guys and our team and how to attack scouting reports, etc. And he brings a great energy to our practices, to our offices. It's been a really, really good fit so far.
With Adam, there have been some times in the past where he's had trouble getting deeper into games. Obviously, that's important for a Friday night starter. What do you do with him? How can that be improved upon going forward?
Well, the biggest thing is do you minimize your pitches? Do you waste pitches early in the game, or do you get quicker outs? And so all pitchers, and generally it's with strikeout pitchers, and he's a strikeout pitcher. You need to learn when is the right time to go for the strikeout, and I can't afford to risk the ball being put in play. And then which times do I maybe throw that two-seamer on a guy's hands first or second pitch, let him ground out, and I get a quick out. That's a big part. Guys that go deep in games know when to get quick outs and then have the ability to throw enough strikes and have enough command to get those outs. The guys that struggle a little bit in command, they have 6, 7, 8 pitch at bats. You look up in the 5th inning and they're at 95 pitches. If he wants to be a guy that goes deep into the games, number one, he has to have the command to not waste pitches, and number two, get quick outs when he sees that it's the right situation for that.
Coach, you mentioned Schuyler trying to be kind of more up to date on the technological side of things. How has that helped him kind of get to know this pitching staff before stepping onto the field?
Well, not necessarily more up to date. Jerry shared that too. Jerry was very well up to date on all that stuff as well. Yeah, I just think these days you're looking for every edge. You look at the best teams in the major leagues these days, it's the teams that have embraced whatever the latest trend is in technology, in training athletes, in how to prepare them, in scouting reports, in electronics to train players, whether it's what you're doing in the weight room. To me, to maximize wherever you are, you have to be on top of whatever the best way to do things is. And sometimes it's a tried and true theory that's been around for 50 to 100 years. Other times you need to evolve. So that's the biggest thing, is Schuyler has a good feel for what has always worked, but also balances that with here's how things are being done now that we can take advantage of. That, to me, that's what coaching is figuring out what is tried and true that you don't want to mess with, and then what is new that we can add and enhance how we're doing things.
Mark, what's the status of some of the pitchers that weren't available in the fall, like Lawson? You mentioned Bridges, Colby Lee. Are all those guys healthy?
Yeah, they're all pitching now. You'll see all of them pitch here in our upcoming intersquads. Cody Morris will probably be shut down for about a week. He's dealing with a little bit of very minor shoulder tendonitis, so we're gonna err on the side of conservative this early in the preseason. But everybody else you will see out on the mound, and they'll be trying to earn time.
Mark, you talked about, it sounds like, you really follow big league trends and innovations. To what extent are you a fan of analytics and even shifts?
Very much so. Very much so. I think most of those analytics show that where positions have traditionally, where players have traditionally played on the field is not necessarily the most ideal. So you may see us shift some. You may see us shade defensive positions maybe a little bit more than you're used to. Everything we do will have a reason behind it. So we'll use scouting reports and programs, modern day scouting reports that we're able to get access to, and we'll put guys where we think the ball has the most likely chance to go based on their 200 or 400 bats in college. And so if that means the third baseman is shaded over more because that's where the analytics say the ball's going to go, that's where he'll be. If you need three guys on one side of the infield because that's where 90% chance the ball's going to go, that's what we'll do. To me, that stuff is all just about trying to find an edge to help you win. That's what it is.
Have you leaned on Ray very much to get you to this point? And if so, as the season moves on, will you go to him very much to talk baseball philosophies and strategies and that sort of thing?
I mean, I think you'd be foolish to ignore what Ray Tanner is as a baseball guy. But by the same token, and I've said this from the beginning, I think we need to do things that got us here. I'll lean on him maybe for, how do you deal with the ups and downs of playing in the SEC, or tell me your thoughts on recruiting within the state. Things that I don't have a feel for, that's where I go to him for. When it comes to baseball or training players or how to prepare for a game, I mean, I feel like we have a good handle on that, but in areas where I just don't have experience, that's where I would go to Ray. And he's been, as you might imagine, tremendous with any time I have questions.
Coach, have you gotten to experience any other sporting events here at South Carolina? Because Gamecock Nation loves their sports, and how exciting is that for you to kind of get a sense of what the atmosphere here will be like?
Well, it's been outstanding. South Carolina Athletic Department is one of the best in the country, and so yeah, we have gone to quite a few events. We went to the bowl game down in Tampa. That was a great way to go back and see old friends, but also support the Gamecocks. And we were right there in the end zone, celebrating with the fans. My family and I were when we had that late second half comeback. So yeah, I love being a part of the community, a part of this athletic department, and so we're going to cheer for those sports because I know they cheer for us as well.
Any more questions?
All right, thanks guys, appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll do the players starting at 1 o'clock. We'll do it on the concourse.